the all controlling government instilled a annual practice called the Hunger Games, where 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl, I guess if you're non-binary in this universe, congratulations, you are excluded. And hey, if you're gonna be excluded from one thing, the Hunger Games is actually pretty good. Oh, hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Carly, and today we are talking all things Hunger Games. I feel like we've been really living in like a Hunger Games nostalgia moment this last year or so, maybe a little bit more. I feel like maybe, obviously it's like just triggered by the fact that like life is kind of like hell and people want to like recede into the nostalgia of their childhood, but I feel like it was more so triggered about a year or so ago by the release of the Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie, which is the prequel movie starring Rachel Zegler, my girl. Ziegler. It's Ziegler. Sorry, girl. I shouldn't have disrespected you like that. My queen. Love her. And when I was thinking of what I wanted to do for a video this month, I was just like, I kind of just want to talk about like literally every single thing about the Hunger Games. Like that's just kind of like what I want to do. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about the kind of YA dystopia moment. We're gonna talk about the books. We're gonna talk about the movies. We're gonna talk about the fandom. I want to talk about the lore, fan theories, the prequels, just everything that there is to kind of do with the Hunger Games. And I feel like maybe we should just get started. Like I don't think I need to burn time off the top. I feel like we just want to get into the real meat of the video. I will say before I start, if you're a Hunger Games fan and you're watching this, like I was there. I was boots on the ground. So if I'm making a joke, if I'm making fun of the Hunger Games, like I'm making fun of it from a place of love. I was obsessed with the Hunger Games when I was growing up. I never got to see any of the movies at the midnight premiere because my parents hate me. They hate me. But I was reading all the books. I was watching all the movies. I had this huge wall in my room that I don't have any pictures of, which is actually kind of heartbreaking to me. That was just like ripped out pages from magazines about the Hunger Games. And it was a huge collage on my wall. Just massive. My friend Lake has a story about when we were at sleepaway camp. She one time woke up and I was just reading Mockingjay in the dark, like not like just pitch black reading. I was there. I was boots on the ground. So I'm not making fun of it from a place of hate. I'm making fun of it from a place of love. Also, I feel like when I talk about things that I was there for, that I love, that I have a history with, I am more likely to be a little bit less precise because I remember things incorrectly, and some of these things I'm going from memory, so I'll try and note that when I can, as opposed to like when I'm talking about stuff that I've been researching from the ground up, it's like I know everything, where some of this stuff I'm like, I feel like I remember this happening. So I'll try and mark what I've like looked into and what has not been verified, basically. But it's like fine, because I'm not a journalist. I don't think you're clicking on the like everything about the Hunger Games video because you're expecting hardcore journalism, but I don't know you. I don't know your life. Before we get into the rest of the video, I wanted to take a quick break and thank this video's sponsor, Milanote. If you've been on my channel before, you know I love working with Milanote. I genuinely think the product is so good, and I've been using it to organize my writing. I've been writing a novel for like the past like year and a half, if not, I guess more, and it's been so helpful, so intuitive and easy to use when actually organizing my writing part. Like I very much use Milanote, and I think the product is fantastic. Milanote is an organizational tool, and it is perfect for visual thinkers like me because it allows you to plan your creative projects in a way that makes sense for your brain. So here is my writing deck. This is, where I basically organize all of my different writing projects, whether it be a short story I'm working on, a contest I want to apply to, the novel that I'm actively working on, or like any ideas that I have. I've changed a couple of things. So if something doesn't make sense, that's why, just because like I can't like just be actively leaking information about a project I am actively trying to sell. But I have my progress tracked here, action items that I need to be working on. So if I don't know what to do or where to start, I can just go there. Inspiration. I have plot structure and character decks all organized for each project. And I also have this cute little photo here in the notes that I need to address tab because criticism is hard and I need a cute little cat to help me get through. Milanote allows you to collect notes, photos. You can link videos, which I use to link a writing playlist that I like. I really like linking Spotify playlists that I make for characters or vibes of the things that I'm working on. Their web clipper browser extension makes it incredibly easy to save inspiration from various places online. It just makes saving images and links like directly into the boards So quick and easy. Milanote has over 100 built-in templates for whatever creative project or endeavor you are embarking upon. And when you're ready to share your work, you can invite other people to your boards, and then you can collaborate together in real time. So if you want to use Milanote to organize your creative projects, and I definitely think you should, sign up today using the link in my description. It is 100% free with no time limit, so you really have no excuse. Again, go to the link in my description below and sign up for Milanote. Thank you so much to Milanote for sponsoring. Let's talk about the Hunger Games. First, let's talk about young adult dystopia. This is a genre of fictional books written for teenagers, and they basically all take place in a dystopian society, so a society in the future, not unlike our own, in which somehow like there's lots of government control. You know what? Should I actually just Google it? What dystopian means? Okay, relating to or denoting an imagined state or society where there is great suffering and injustice. So kind of like now, am I right, ladies? Give me some. Pound it. Okay, so dystopian as a kind of genre definitely existed way before the YA dystopian craze of the early 2010s and like late 2000s, but it was adult dystopia. When I think of 1984 by George Orwell, that's kind of dystopian. Again, it's this idea of like we're living in this imagined society where in some way, shape, or form, like the government has taken a lot of control and it has made the lives of people worse, or there's some kind of like lack of truth, right? But you really don't get that for young adults, i.e. teens, until the early 2010s. You get whispers of it, especially like because a lot of this genre comes from science fiction, right? Science fiction, double feature. You know what I'm talking about? Where again, like science fiction is like we're kind of living in this like futuristic state in the future, way in the past, and like technology and space and whatever. That's actually an academic definition of science fiction if you didn't know. Something that I think about as like one of the earliest, what I would categorize as young adult dystopian, but I think it is technically actually categorized as young adult science fiction, is Ender's Game, which I had to read in 8th grade. It was published in 1985, and it is basically about this young boy who gets brought into this elite training program. Earth is at war with these things called, I think, like crawlies or crawlers. Again, like this is from memory. So he's brought into this like training academy where through like using basically video games and simulations, they learn how to fight wars. And there's like this crazy twist at the end where like I remember reading it and being 13 and being like, society. And like, listen, did Ender's Game basically predict like drone warfare? Yeah, I bring this up just to be like, when I think about YA dystopia, obviously we're going to be talking about like the Uglies and the Hunger Games and the Maze Runner and all of those kind of books that exist in this space. But I think that we see a bit of it in like YA sci-fi where it comes from, as well as like dystopian adult fiction, right? What I also will say about Ender's Game, I have not read it in a decade, but I think that it is successful for similar reasons that the Hunger Games is successful compared to other books in this genre, because it can be read by adults. And I think the reason it can be read by adults is because it doesn't talk down to its audience. An adult can read a teen book if the writing does not like talk down to teens and assumes that teens can understand complex ideas and that their relationships and their interior worlds and their emotions matter. So I think sometimes when you read some of these YA dystopian books, like they do not hold up because they're kind of cashing in on the craze and aiming to just be entertaining. And there's truly nothing wrong with that. Like there is a place I do believe in my heart and soul for fiction to just be entertaining. But I think when you're thinking specifically about like dystopia and you're talking about like government control, this like futuristic society where everybody is suffering, if you don't have a strong metaphor for what you're kind of trying to represent and the thesis you're trying to prove, backed up by just like really great characters and really great writing and world building, it can just kind of fall flat. I would argue as well, and this is not just my point, but other people have argued, that The Giver, which was published in 1993, is one of the earliest YA dystopian novels that we see. I had to also read this in class and I did not like it that much. And I remember watching the movie when it came out, and Taylor Swift is in it, but she's like in flashback, and I don't remember anything about the Giver movie either. The book is basically about this futuristic society where nobody really feels any pain. Everything's kind of black and white vibes. Nobody sees color. Everything is like just mid, fine. It's like you don't feel pain or bad things, but because of that, you don't feel good things. You don't like have like heightened taste and pleasure and see colors and all these things. And everyone gets a job, and the main character gets selected to be the next giver. And the giver is the only person in all society who basically holds all the memories of what sensation and feelings are. So they're like, you first of all, so thankful to meet you, 16-year-old boy. Get ready to feel everything everywhere all at once, basically. And through basically feeling these feelings and like understanding that like everybody's a bit too numb, he then kind of wants to break out of this society because it's bad to not feel emotions. I don't think I have to explain that to you. Very rudimentary explanation of The Giver, but was very successful, and you read it a ton in school. It's teaching you like basic metaphor where they're like, so nobody can feel anything in this society. What do you think that's in reference to? The next huge YA dystopian title is The Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. This is published in 2005. I was surprised that this was published before The Hunger Games, just based on the fact that my general understanding of the situation before doing the research was that The Hunger Games came first, and then like all these other books kind of followed in the wake, trying to cash in on the whole like craze. And I was wrong, so sue me. The Uglies was definitely like a moment. I remember girls passing this around the school library. I actually never read it. I did watch the movie, and I made a video all about that. If you want to watch it, the movie is fucking horrible. Like, there's literally no way around it. The movie is fucking awful. It's just fucking bad. But this book was a real moment. Basically, in this universe, before you become an adult, you're an ugly because you're like 13. You know what I mean? Like before you're just ugly. And all the uglies are taken away from their parents and sequestered in this school. So like you're a little kid, and then when you basically become a tween, you get put into like a school because you're fucking ugly and nobody wants to see you. And then when you become an adult, you get a surgery to become a pretty. And this surgery is basically plastic surgery that makes you look gorgeous. It's a very like obviously visually based society, because once you become pretty, then you can like go out in the world, you can like go to parties, and you go to New Prettyville or whatever. I literally think that's where they live. So like I'm not being facetious. That is just where they live. And the main character of this, Tally, her and her best friend Paris with an E, because I really think a huge hallmark of YA dystopian is the craziest names you've ever heard of in your life. When you read the new Hunger Games book, the Sunrise on the Reaping, the craziest names I've ever seen in my goddamn life, and then one Ryan. Susan Collins on her computer being like, this is my best friend Cream Cheese Bagel, but with all U's, and Cream Cheese Bagel's best friend is Ryan. Just a regular name Ryan. Insane. So it's Tally and Paris with an E, P-E-R-I-S. Paris is older than her, so he gets his pretty surgery, moves to New Pretty Town, and changes. He's different. He's very surface level, whatever. And then basically Tally realizes that this pretty surgery also puts lacerations on your brain and makes you dumb. And then what the hell happens? She runs away. This threatens the government for some reason. That's another real hallmark of YA dystopian. It's like this one teenager doesn't want to take whatever test or go through whatever rite of passage is being forced upon them, and that's a great threat to the government for some reason, even if it makes absolutely no sense in context. Anyways, then in 2008, we have The Hunger Games, what we are basically going to be talking about for the rest of today. The Hunger Games is about Katniss Everdeen. In the universe of The Hunger Games, after an uprising, the all-controlling government instilled a annual practice called The Hunger Games, where 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl, I guess if you're non-binary in this universe, congratulations, you are excluded. And hey, if you're gonna be excluded from one thing, The Hunger Games is actually pretty good. In the universe of The Hunger Games, 1 boy, 1 girl from each district, there are 12 districts, get chosen through like lottery, and they are forced to fight in a fight to the death in the arena. There are different like types of arenas. There are different rules every year. Every 25 years, it's a quarter quell, and the rules are different. And in the original Hunger Games book, it is Katniss Everdeen. Her young sister is reaped, which is when you're chosen. And you get chosen from 12 to 18. Her younger sister is 12. So it's like, you're not surviving the Hunger Games at 12. Like, unless you have a bayonet, you know, unless nobody else gets any weapons and you get a gun, you might survive, but that's not gonna happen. So Katniss volunteers for her. I volunteer as tribute, goes to the Hunger Games, and she's with this boy, Peeta, who's the other guy chosen. And they like kind of like fall in love, but then it's like, is it all for show so that they can both survive? Is it real? Who knows? It rocks. I think the Hunger Games is just really good because the point Suzanne Collins is trying to make, and we will talk about this a bit more in the book section, is so clear. You buy into the stakes, you buy into the fact that this would really happen. Like the government killing kids, like imagine. No, you buy into the reality 100%. Everything kind of makes sense. The characters have real stakes. It's a really full world with like a lot of different, it doesn't just feel like only one part of this world has been established. There's like so much lore that we're obviously going to get into. And these teenagers' interior lives are treated like with a lot of weight. It's not just about the romance. It's about the fact that they're about to die and what does it mean to be a teenager in like an oppressive rule. I think it's very good. In 2009, we have The Maze Runner published. This was my fucking shit. This really, I think, perfected YA dystopian in the sense that they were like, what if there are no girls? It's all just hot guys. It's just hot teenage boys. They wake up, they have no memories. They're in the center of a maze and they have to escape the maze. Or they're on the outside of the maze and they have to get to the center of the maze. But at night, the doors close because these monsters will crawl out of the maze and try and kill them. So they have to try and run in the maze and get to the center of the maze so they can escape. Does that make sense? Like, you have to get to the center of the maze so that everyone can escape because they don't know why the they're here. I think this makes sense. But it's literally just like when the movies came out, it's just like, what if we just have like hot boys? It's just Dylan O'Brien, the kid from fucking Love Actually, Will Poulter, and the girl from Skins. Because there's one girl, so you can self-insert. She's like not like other girls. She can't be like other girls because she's in the middle of the maze. Other girls are like shopping, gossiping, texting on their phones. The girl from Skins is in the middle of the maze trying to escape the middle of the maze. Or alternatively, she's on the outside of the maze trying to get to the middle of the maze. I don't remember if they're in the middle of the maze trying to leave the maze or if they're on the outside of the maze and they have to solve the maze. I don't think it really matters. But this, if you weren't on Maze Runner or Tumblr, I can't explain it to you. There's a real kind of like, I feel like they really understood the assignment of being like, if we're gonna make a YA dystopia novel, like, why don't we just make like it all hot boys? And I'm saying this like in the universe of like when I was 16, okay? Like, I don't think like 16-year-old boys are hot, okay? Don't try and cancel me because you can't. I'm ironclad, I'm airtight. I read it in my school library. Part of the school was getting like renovated or whatever, so they had moved the library basically into like this like one kind of big classroom in the school. So it was really tightly packed, and a big thing was like, you cannot bring food and drink into the library. Like, you can't really before, but like you definitely can't now because there's books so close to you on all sides, like you will damage a book if you spill anything. And I was reading The Maze Runner in the library, and this like 6th grader came in. He had a bright red Crush, like instead of an orange soda, it was like a bright red soda, and he dropped it on the ground and it exploded, which is like really sad to think about for the books, but from a physical comedy standpoint, objectively hilarious. The other thing I remember about these books is that the other books are not very good in the series. Like, the first book is like, what's happening? What if we get out of the maze? And then they like do get out of the maze, and then it's like an apocalypse, I think. Also, I know the government has a stupid fucking name. I have to look up what the government's name is. Wicked. It's literally Wicked. World in Catastrophe, Kill Zone Experiment Department. If your abbreviation has a colon in the center, you are cooked. So it's Wicked. Why couldn't you have stayed calm for once? Okay, then we have in 2010, Matched. This is when society controls who you date. The main character's name is Cassia Reyes, and she is matched with her best friend Xander Caro in the like matched test. Who's your best match? Okay? Xander Caro. But there's a glitch in her matching ceremony, and for a moment, the screen flashes and she sees the outcast at school, Kyle Markham, on the screen. And she's like, what does that mean? Am I meant to be with my best friend, Xander Caro, or should I be with the outcast at school, Kai Markham? So this is also a threat to the government for some reason. Sorry, if you don't get why a teenage girl having a crush on a guy who's not her boyfriend is a threat to the government, like, I can't explain it to you. If you're just like, you can't understand it, then I can't explain it to you. Then we have Divergent by Veronica Roth, which came out in 2011. This was the true successor to the Hunger Games throne. This was the most successful one, I feel like, just from, I have not looked at sales numbers at all, just through being in the culture. Divergent was also kind of a moment. The movies are not good, and the books are not very good either. And I feel like Veronica Roth would be okay with me saying that. Like, she's obviously made way more money than I'll ever make in my entire life. But when I mean they're like not good, I don't mean by obviously people like the books. You know what I mean? What the hell do I know about fucking anything? So, you know what, girl, good for you. In Divergent, in this universe, in the dystopian world of Chicago. I know, pretty scary, right? When you turn 16, you take a test to decide which faction you join. And this is like what your job is. You only really can be around other people of your faction. Like, the factions kind of like intermingle at like community events, but like you that's where you stay. That's where you're gonna like marry, all those things. You can either be Dauntless, which are brave and cops, Amity, which is kind and farmers, Erudite, which is smart and like scientists, Candor, which is honest and lawyers, and Abnegation, which is selfless and like community workers. There's no faction that's just like groceries. Nobody runs a grocery store. You'll also notice that all of the titles of the faction are just synonyms for what they are. Like, Candor is just another word for being honest and truthful. So whatever. And Triss Pryor takes the test to figure out which faction she's supposed to be in, and she is a divergent, which means that she's basically an amnivert and can be in like any of the factions. So she just chooses Dauntless. Could have chose literally anything and became a cop. Okay. And then she's trying to make sure that nobody finds out that she is divergent. And this is a threat to the government. And the only thing I have to add about Divergent is that Veronica Roth wrote this in 50 days during her senior year of university, and honestly, nothing has made more sense to me than finding out that fact. The book reads 50 days. And hey, I do not have a book that has been sold for lots of money. So like, I would love that, but like, Veronica Roth, the best to you. Nothing but love and light to you. You obviously are more successful than me, so it's fine. In 2011, we have Shatter Me, which is a 17-year-old girl kills people when she touches them and is put into an asylum after killing a young boy by touching him, and she meets a sexy teen boy who's her cellmate in the asylum. In 2012, we have The Selection. I'm just gonna read the description to you word for word because it's so crazy. In a futuristic world, society is divided into castes. The ones, capital O, being the most prosperous, consisting of royals and elites, and eights being mostly orphans / homeless, drug users, handicapped, and unemployable. America Singer, her first name is America, her last name is Singer, is a 5. The artist caste, e.g. musicians, artists, actors, dancers, etc. Since their prosperity depends on their desirability, 5s live a lower class life. America, however, does not care because she enjoys entertaining, especially with the violin. The prince basically holds a selection ceremony, and America Singer doesn't want to take part because she has a boy next door boyfriend, but then her mother makes her because you can get money if you're in the selection. And then she's like, do I like this prince? Whatever. So that's a kind of overview of YA dystopia and the craze. As you'll notice, the common trait is like government control, living in a unjust society where governments are in control, a teenager breaking free of whatever the conventions that are placed upon them are. Everyone has fucking crazy names, and there's some kind of like game, test, arranged marriage, child death game, personality quiz that the government gives. There's some kind of like event, right? And there is more often than not a love triangle. Now let's talk about the Hunger Games books. So Suzanne Collins wrote the Hunger Games after watching TV. This is like the big like lore story. Is that she was watching TV and she was flipping through the channels because I don't know if the kids know, but back in the day you had to like watch TV on a TV, so you couldn't just like pick what you're watching on streaming. You had to like you're flicking through the channels. This is my channel changer. And she saw reality TV, and then that was juxtaposed with like live coverage of the war. I don't know which war, so I don't want to say. I don't want to just guess, but I have a guess. And she was disgusted and intrigued by like the juxtaposition between like what entertainment is. Entertainment can be like children dying and also like really kind of shallow, whatever. And I think part of this is why the Hunger Games is also having a moment right now, because like things are bad. I think the appealing thing about dystopia, especially if you're a teenager, is this idea that like you have the power, right? As you're becoming aware of your identity and the fact that your like life is incredibly controlled, because being a teenager is fucking hell on earth. You just can't do anything on your own. You realize that you want to break free of that. And I think like now that we're like actually also just on social media, like watching horrific events happen, you're like scrolling and you're seeing like death. And then you're also just somebody being like, this eyelash curler is so crazy, you have to buy it now. Like the consumerism aspect of society gets ramped up as like the horrors of society ramped up. So I feel like so many times now, like in the past couple years, I've been like, oh, so it's like life is just like actually the Hunger Games. Good. I was worried that my adult life wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be witnessing the actual Hunger Games, but it's interesting. I think somebody made a really interesting comparison at the Met Gala last year, of basically being like, you're seeing coverage of like airstrikes and children being denied food, and that's being broadcast on social media alongside like celebrities in crazy outfits, which is a big thing in the Hunger Games. The people in the Capitol, which is the rich part of this like Pan Am, where they live, the people who live in the Capitol dress really gaudy and crazy and very like maximalist because they can. And when you're seeing that happen in real time, you're like, what? I explained the plot to you before. Basically, the Hunger Games was pretty much immediately successful. It's genuinely good and does not talk down to the teen readership. Like, I remember reading it for my middle school book club. Yeah, I was in a middle school book club because I'm cool, okay? And I remember after I started reading it and then I moved on to like the next part of the series, like I gave my mom the book and she read it. Like, you can really read it as an adult. And not that there's anything wrong with books that are just for teens, but I think as a teenager, you see this why like no teens like music that's made for teens. Teens want to listen to music that's made for adults that they can also consume. When you're a teenager, you just want to read things and consume things that like adults can also consume because you want to be an adult, right? Like that's just part of it. And I think that's why it really works. It also is coming out, especially like once the movies start coming out. It's right around when Harry Potter is coming out. Like the first Hunger Games movie comes out in 2012. Deathly Hallows comes out in 2011, and then the Hunger Games movie comes out in 2012. So there's this real kind of narrative of like what's going to replace Harry Potter as this really successful thing that's like the cultural moment. What is the teen media thing that's going to be a craze? Also, this is on the heels of Twilight Mania as well, which has a love triangle. And something that I find really interesting is that the love triangle, because there's a love triangle in the Hunger Games. So like Katniss is just trying to like live her life and not be killed. And she's a guy back home that she's like, I kind of have like a will they won't they. Like Gale helps me support my family. Like we've just both grown up in abject poverty together. So there's a trauma bond there. But then when she's in the arena, she also trauma bonds with PETA because they're being hunted by other kids. So she's kind of like, there's a love triangle. And Suzanne Collins didn't originally want to add that, but the publisher or her editor or her agent, I don't know which one, because they just said they Who is they, girl? Tell me. I would love to know. They were like, if you add a love triangle, then you can really cash in on the teen media loves the love triangles because you can have the hashtag Teen Edward, hashtag Team Jacob. So you have hashtag Team Gale, hashtag Team Peeta. So the Hunger Games is really the best of both worlds when it comes to Harry Potter and Twilight. And it's better than both of them in the sense that Suzanne Collins is way less problematic than J.K. Rowling or Stephanie Meyer. She's not a conservative and she's not a brain-rotted transphobe. So I guess the bar is on the ground, but congratulations, Suzanne Collins, you get a medal, okay? For not being on Twitter, not tweeting every day. But it really is the best of both worlds in that there is a romance element, but it's also got this kind of like overthrowing the government teen action adventure vibe, right? So there's a bit of both. It's got more like teen drama than Harry Potter, like, oh my God, who's this girl gonna date? Which was like not really a consideration in Harry Potter in the same way, but it's also got way more like narrative push and like a story about overthrowing the government than like Twilight. Like I never read Twilight when it first came out because I internalized misogyny and I was not like other girls. And I was like, well, other girls are shopping. I'm actually very different. I'm in the middle school book club. So what are we gonna do about this? So like I read The Hunger Games because I was like, The Hunger Games very much felt like it's not like just for girls kind of thing, which, you know, is obviously problematic, but let's talk about the movies. So yes, the first movie comes out in 2012 and it is pandemonium. It is really hype. Lionsgate up until this point is a studio that's basically like hemorrhaging money, has not made a movie that has made money in a very, very long time. And that's why I think when you watch all of the Hunger Games movies, the first one is very much feels like it's in a different world because it does not have a huge budget. Everything's got that 2012 sheen to it where it's very cold. The color grading is very, very, very cold and desaturated. And they're also the shaky cam. There's so much shaky cam for no reason. It's mind-boggling to me. But that's what they had to do because like they did not have the budget that they get in the later movies because the Hunger Games starts to become a real thing. When the Hunger Games came out in 2012, there are three things I want to talk about the first Hunger Games. First is the Rue is Black discourse. I don't know if this is going to surprise you, but when Rue, who is a little girl from District 11 that Katniss befriends in the arena, she's like 12 and Katniss kind of sees her as this surrogate younger sister. They cast Amanda Stenberg and everyone flips their lid because Amanda Stenberg is Black, and even though the character of Rue is described as Black in the book, everyone was like, ah! Which is a totally normal reaction to a casting for a teen movie. And the actor cast is like a child, by the way. It was a very strange reaction to me. I will link it in the description. God help me. God help me. There's a really, really good video essay that's called The Day Rue Became Black, all about kind of the discourse and the things that happened at this time, where even though Rue in the book is described as somebody who is Black, the fact that Amanda Stenberg is cast and is a Black actor, Rue becomes Black. It's just really interesting. I recommend watching it. But I do just find this reaction insane. And like, obviously just from one point of me being like, I'm an ally. I think that you should not scream at a Black 12-year-old girl for being cast in a movie. Like, yes, but it's also just brain rot argument. Like, it makes no sense to me. It's not even added diversity, which I think is a good thing across the board. I think that obviously movies should include people that aren't just white, but like, it's not even the kind of thing freak out that you get when a white character is made to be Black, which is also fine. It's like, the character is Black. Like, I'm sorry, you pictured her white. Like, she's not. Her and the guy from her district are both described that way. It doesn't make any sense. Also, Katniss in the books is described as being olive skin toned, and based on the like location, I guess, where people like kind of figured out or guess and we'll get to this discourse a bit later too, but like where District 12, where Katniss is from, is geographically in the United States. And a lot of people, because of that, assumed that Katniss and a lot of the people who live in the Seam, which is the neighborhood which Katniss lives in, are indigenous because Katniss is described as olive toned and just like the other, I guess, context clues. And when Jennifer Lawrence was cast as Katniss, these people that were screaming about Rue being Black were like, really quiet. Which is strange. It's almost as if it's not about that at all. The other big kind of casting thing, which is so insane. Like the 2010s were and the early 2000s are just so horrible. It's crazy any of us made it out alive. When Jennifer Lawrence was cast as Katniss, everyone was like, she's not very skinny. It's the Hunger Games. And like, she doesn't look like emaciated. She doesn't look hungry. I remember this discourse and I actually can't believe it. Like, I can't. Jennifer Lawrence is basically cast in the Hunger Games based off of her performance in Winter's Bone, which is like a huge role for her. Basically, she was an unknown at the time and slays it. And I think, and she gets an Academy Award nomination. Does she win for Winter's Bone? No, she's nominated, but that's still crazy. And it's like, it's such an amazing performance. I don't know. I know I don't have to explain to you why it's bad to freak out that an actress is not skinny enough to play a famished girl in a role. Because first of all, actors can lose weight if that is what they want to do for the role. And that's not unheard of. Second of all, she's fully fucking skinny. It's crazy. Like, it's actually mind-boggling. If you look at the pictures of her on the Winter's Bone red carpet, on the red carpet of the Oscars when she is nominated for Winter's Bone. And these are the pictures that everyone was like, wow, she's like not really skinny. And like, she is. It's so crazy. Also, you don't have to be incredibly thin even if you're impoverished. Does that make sense? Like, we know this. I just had to talk about that because every time I like wake up from in a cold sweat from a sleep and remember Jennifer Lawrence on the red carpet of the Oscars and everyone being like, is she skinny enough to play Katniss? The other thing of note from the Hunger Games movie, the first Hunger Games movie, is Peeta camouflaging. I just want to talk about it because I think it's so hilarious. In the arena, Peeta can't like really fight. He's like really strong from lifting bags of flour in the lore because his family owns a bakery. His dad runs a bakery, which is why he's named Peeta after pita bread, I assume. So Peeta's really strong from lifting bags of flour. Yeah, but he doesn't like have a weapon because Katniss can use her bow and arrow really well because she would hunt outside. Like, she would hunt in the woods illegally to feed her family. But Peeta gets injured in the arena and he's really good at painting because he's a really kind of, tender guy, a really like emotional, sensitive guy. So he paints himself to look like a rock in the arena and Katniss finds him. I think about this picture every day. I have nothing to say about Peeta camouflage. I just want you to know about Peeta camouflaged as a rock. If I was Katniss and the guy I liked painted himself as a rock and I found him in the theater, I'd get immediate ick. In 2013, Catching Fire, the follow-up movie, is released. They literally, for the first 4 Hunger Games movies, released them one year after the other and the quality it gets better. Like, it's really amazing how the quality isn't affected. I mean, like, Catching Fire is by far the best movie, I would argue. Catching Fire rips. It is such a good movie. It's just fantastic, but the quality does not suffer in Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2, even though I don't think they're as good as movies. Like, it is just kind of crazy that they were able to get these movies out like 2011 or 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. I think that's insane. So the storyline of Catching Fire is that President Snow, who's the evil fascist dictator president of Panem, is pissed that Katniss is starting a revolution because at the end of the first Hunger Games, they have this whole thing where they're like, because Katniss and Peeta are like star-crossed lovers, they're like playing that kind of like narrative to try and get the Capitol to sympathize with them. They're like, if 2 tributes from the same district make it to the end, they can win together. So Katniss and Peeta win, and then they're like, just kidding. We actually take that back. So one of you has to kill each other. So it's like good TV, but it's like these 2 teenagers who are in love have to kill each other on TV, whatever. And Katniss is like, instead of killing each other, let's take these poison berries and kill ourselves on TV. The berries are so rife for parody. There are so many Hunger Games parodies about the berries specifically. My friend Mike, when he was in high school, made a Hunger Games parody where it's so cute. They're like eating the berries at the end, and then they're like, these are actually pretty good, and they're like salting them or whatever. There's a lot of different parodies about the berries specifically. But in Catching Fire, President Snow is pissed about the berries because he feels like Katniss is like starting a revolution, making the Capitol look foolish, all these things, right? So it's the Quarter Quell, because it's the 75th annual Hunger Games, and for the Quarter Quell, they're going to reap only from the past victors who have already won the Hunger Games, and it's kind of like reboot. So everyone going into the arena for this Hunger Games has already fought. So it's like all these victors, and a lot of them are like adults, and it's such a good movie, it's such a good plot, because you get to have all these like great adult actors come in who have like had really good careers and stuff like that, and just come in and really make really interesting choices with these characters, and you get to kind of flesh out the world more and see what the lives are like for victors in the Capitol. A lot of them, like Joanna and Haymitch, are really angry or kind of drinking themselves to death because the Capitol retaliated against them and killed their family. Some of them are being prostituted out because they are attractive. You get to kind of see like, yes, like it's kind of just bad. Again, it's a really good apt metaphor for like late stage capitalism, like not to make it about late stage capitalism, but like Susan Collins did, where it's like, even if you succeed, you still lose. Like you cannot win. Even if you succeed and win the Hunger Games, you still lose. It's just a great movie, bigger budget, grows the world, furthers the themes. It's Lionsgate's highest earning movie to date, and I believe it deserves to be. Oh, and it's just so good. Then in 2014 and 2015, we get Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2, because this was the time where every movie gets broken up into parts. This is how we get The Hobbit, 300-page book, turned into 3 horrible movies. So of course we get Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2, because of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. These movies are fine. I think it's a good ending. Like, they do really like end the storyline, which is good. It's like now the rebellion is happening and they have to figure out how to take down President Snow. I don't want to spoil too much of these and get too specific, because I do think you should read the books or watch the movies if you haven't, because they really do fucking rock. Here's what I will say about Mockingjay specifically. Susan Collins is not afraid to murder main characters. And she never was. But like, she will be like, this character gets eaten by mutts. This character's gonna choke on their own blood. This character's dying in an airstrike. Like, it's wild. There are a couple of other things I want to talk about with Mockingjay specifically. The first is the song The Hanging Tree. This is just a song that Katniss sings when they start shooting like propaganda. Is it propaganda, like, if your POV is right? You know what I mean? Like, they're shooting propaganda videos to encourage people to join the rebellion, and Katniss talks about how her father used to sing the song The Hanging Tree before he died in the mines. And like, is it propaganda if you're correct? Or is that what everyone thinks? I feel like that's what everyone thinks, so maybe I'm the problem. So she sings The Hanging Tree, and it's about 2 lovers meeting at the tree where they hang people. We'll get to why that's important later, but I want you to just know that this is what happens, because it becomes a cultural moment, and we get the Hanging Tree remix. Then we get the Plutarch CGI. I want to talk about Plutarch CGI. So Philip Seymour Hoffman is cast as Plutarch Havensby. He's the head game maker. He's fucking eats this role. He is so fucking good in this role. It is insane. He's a fantastic actor. I know that's the coldest take in the world, but Philip Seymour Hoffman is a great actor. So he dies in 2014 from a heroin overdose while they are still shooting Mockingjay Part 2, and they had not wrapped him yet. There was still one scene at the very end where Katniss and Plutarch have a conversation after Katniss does political assassination. And they hadn't shot that. And they'd considered using CGI or trying to stitch it together, and they end up, because they think it's creepy and disrespectful to reanimate somebody using CGI, they have Plutarch write a letter to Katniss and Haymitch reads it to her. But there is a persistent rumor that I found even to this day that Philip Seymour Hoffman is entirely CGI in both Mockingjay movies, and that's just not true. I also want to talk about from Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2 at the very end. So they topple the government. Spoiler alert. I won't tell you what happens though. And they're like, so to get back at the Capitol, maybe we should do a Hunger Games. I know how y'all were traumatized by the Capitol in the Hunger Games. What if we do a Capitol Hunger Games with children from the Capitol, and they let the remaining alive victors decide if they should do it or not? And Katniss is like, yep. Let's do it. Yeah, I love that. Great idea, by the way. I think it's a very, very good scene. Again, these movies have some really great scenes of just really, really good acting and very interesting character motivation of this kind of idea of like how the oppressed become the oppressors, where Beetee and Peeta are both like, no, let's not put more kids in the Hunger Games. For sure, no. And Haymitch and Joanna are like, yes, love it. And Katniss is like, yep, let's do it. They end up not doing it, but it's so crazy. And like, somebody's like, I heard that President Snow has a granddaughter. Let's throw her in. And you're like, let's stop killing kids. Let's stop. I just think about that scene all the time. And finally, at the end of Mockingjay, the ending is quite contentious, because we basically get trad wife Katniss. The entire Hunger Games series, Katniss is basically this like personification of like, for lack of a better word, girl boss. Like, and she is the one that makes decisions. She is the Mockingjay. She is the symbol of this rebellion. She does what she needs to do. She was the breadwinner for her family, like killing squirrels and shit so that her family can eat. And the series ends with, if you don't want the spoiler alert, skip ahead like a minute, but Katniss and Peeta are married with kids, and she's just kind of like wifey, trad wife. And a lot of people don't like this because Katniss is like a badass, and I think they wanted some more like Katniss as a politician, Katniss as something else. And I get that, and I also get the ending. I think the ending from a more like adult perspective is being like, if your life is full of trauma from war, isn't the greatest thing to like basically create a family, to have a normal life. I get that. But when I read it as a child, I was like, they made my Mockingjay a trad wife. I also think I'm a bit like overcorrect. Like, I don't like this ending, to be clear. I get it. I think it makes sense narratively. I don't like it, but I'm like really, I'm blue pilled. I'm the opposite of red pilled, where I'm like, children oppress women. You know, like when everyone was like, can you believe what Chapel Roan says on these podcasts about how people with kids are miserable? I was like, yeah, what she said was so crazy. To believe that would be so crazy, right? Yeah. The only thing I want to say about these movies, I have two things to say. I'm looking at the notes now. I want to talk about the actors specifically. These movies have full stop fantastic acting, and for the most part, and it's really amazing because it's like it is a teen movie, but then you'll have like some of the most fantastic acting scenes between Jennifer Lawrence, who plays Katniss, and then Donald Sutherland plays President Snow, who's the fascist president, and Philip Seymour Hoffman plays the game maker. So they'll have these crazy scenes, these amazing acting scenes. It's just absolutely phenomenal. The two that I'm thinking of specifically are when Katniss and Snow are talking in Victor's village at the beginning of Catching Fire, and then also when Katniss and Plutarch are dancing at a party together. It's just that amazing thing of like people talking about one thing but very clearly meaning another thing and having to kind of talk in innuendo, but it's so clearly telegraphed through the way that they're acting. And I like when teen media does not talk down to its audience. Like, you can watch these scenes as an adult and be like, okay. We also get Jeffrey Wright as Beedie, who is a Victor, who is a woman in STEM, despite he is a man. But in my heart, Beedie is a woman in STEM. Beedie might be my favorite character. I have not finished Sunrise on the Reaping. I know what happens, but I have not finished it, so do not spoil I don't know if he does some fucked up shit. But I do love BT as a character. He's very much like this kind of nerd, mechanical genius. And I just find that, and I think Jeffrey Wright, the way Jeffrey Wright specifically plays him makes me love him. And he's my favorite character. Oh, he's just clocks into work every day on that set and acts his ass off, and I'm obsessed. We also get Stanley Tucci as Caesar Flickerman in the role of a lifetime. Caesar Flickerman is just the TV host. They tan him to the gods. He's got Donald Trump orange and then like lavender hair, the whitest veneers you've seen in your life. And Stanley Tucci plays him like a maniac. He's just constantly like laughing like, It's so many great character choices. It is absolutely phenomenal. It is so good. Stanley Tucci, like, again, I could talk about every acting choice in this movie is my favorite, but these two specifically, Jeffrey Wright and Stanley Tucci, are my favorite. Sam Claflin plays Finnick, who is a Victor, and he's like a very like pretty boy bachelor. And Katniss judges him for being like, he loves the Capitol and he's like a playboy, but in actuality, it's because he's being basically pimped out by the president, and his life is like the people he loves are being threatened if he doesn't do that. I feel like pimped out is actually not a good term, but you can't say sex worked out because it's not consensual. So I don't know, but you know what I mean. And Sam Claflin in this movie does have a bit of like, I'm a British person doing an American accent, where there's a little bit of vocal fry being like, all right, instead of just being like, all right. They like really like kind of like hit that, whatever you say, but that's fine. Elizabeth Banks plays Effie Trinket, who is the Capitol advisor to District 12. She escorts Katniss and Peeta to the games, and she gets this really beautiful journey. And actually, Effie isn't in Mockingjay, the last book, but they put Elizabeth Banks as Effie in the last two movies because they're like, we love her. We cannot have Effie. And Effie goes on this really beautiful journey of realizing that the games are wrong. Obviously, in an ideal world, you know that the child death games are wrong, but not everybody has that. And she's like, guys, hold on a second. We should not be making 24 kids kill each other every year on TV. I just thought of it. We have Cinna, who is Katniss's stylist. Not stylist, like the pen. Stylist. Played by Lenny Kravitz. Fantastic. Jenna Malone plays Joanna Mason, this like angry lesbian. She's not like a lesbian canonically, but like, and she's like this angry Victor who's been so wronged since winning her games. Great performance. And then we also have Josh Hutcherson and Liam Hemsworth. They were there. Yeah, they were there. Final thing I want to talk about with specific regard to the movies is Jennifer Lawrence and Liam Hemsworth. There were rumors of them dating on set because they are hot people in a movie. But Liam Hemsworth was on again, off again with Miley Cyrus at this point. When were they not? Because they had filmed the last song together. And in the Flowers music video, the song Flowers that Miley Cyrus wrote about Liam Hemsworth, people thought that it was specifically pointed towards Jennifer Lawrence because Miley Cyrus is wearing a gold dress that looks similar to the gold dress that Jennifer Lawrence wore on the premiere of the Hunger Games. This is such a stretch. And on Watch What Happened Live, Jennifer Lawrence in June of 2023 says that the rumors are 100% not true and that she did not have a fling with Liam Hemsworth. She kissed him once when he was not with Miley. So there you go. I know you guys were waiting for some closure on that, and I'm happy to give it to you. Now let's talk about the fandom of the Hunger Games. The fandom, it obviously just was fans of the story, but I think when you talk about fandom specifically, you obviously have to talk about ships because it's such a big part of fandoms. And the love triangle was a huge thing in at least the general public fandom at the time. Like, you know, the more casual fans were definitely like, are you Team Peeta or are you Team Gale? This happened partially because the movies are, of course, coming out on the heels of the Twilight Saga, which heavily promoted using Team Edward Team Jacob. Also, Stephanie Meyer posted the Hunger Games book when it had come out saying like she loved it. So people were gonna pit the two boys against each other. And that's like the point. That was what that editor or whatever was like, put a love triangle in this book. It's a little intense, Suzanne. So if you put a love triangle in it, you can basically say whatever you want. It's like putting a little bit of sugar on your medicine. You put a little sugar on top of your medicine. This is not really a good metaphor, but you know what I mean. What is funny to me about the love triangle in the Hunger Games specifically is how ancillary it is to like Katniss's actual journey. Because she is like planning an uprising and like trying to make sure her mother and sister are actively murdered. So like the love triangle does come so secondary. And also it's funny to me because like the obvious choice, it's so obvious that the choice is Peeta. And I say this as somebody who was Team Gale, and that's mental illness. Me being Team Gale as a 13-year-old girl, like that is mental illness. I don't know what was wrong with me. Because like Peeta, first of all, just gets so much more time with her because he is in the arena with her a ton. So he's just with her way more. So it's hard for Gale to compete with that because he's not in the death arena. And Gale sucks. Like he does have some good moments, especially in the book where he really like helps her family and provides for her family, especially when she's in the arena and she's like, I might die, like can you make sure that you take care of my sister and my mom? And he does. But in the movies, Liam Hemsworth does not play him like a good guy. The part I always think about that is so emblematic of how Liam Hemsworth plays Gale in these movies specifically is in the beginning of Catching Fire. Katniss has just survived murder games, by the way. Literally 22 people absolutely murdered in front of her, basically. And she's back. And she's obviously traumatized. And the way that she survived and the story she's telling him is like, the act I put on with Peeta was for the cameras so we could both survive. Because they kissed in the arena, whatever. And Gale is so pissy. He's like, didn't look fake. And it's like, your friend is traumatized. Your friend was on TV child death games nary 6 months ago. Maybe you should chill out and kind of let her process that before being like, but I like you. Because they're also not dating. Like she didn't cheat on Gale. They were not dating. He's just possessive and jealous. There are other ships in the Hunger Games kind of series. The big one that I can think of is Hey Effie, which is between Haymitch and Effie. Haymitch is the mentor for Peeta and Katniss, and he's a very tortured person who is an addict who self-medicates with alcohol because President Snow killed his entire family. Quirky. Effie is, of course, the Capitol, like, liaison, so she's very much, like, I guess the reason people like it is it's kind of grumpy sunshine, but the main reason I think people ship it is because the actors in this series, Elizabeth Banks and Woody Harrelson, play it like those characters want to like, in so many scenes, there is just tension, and you're like... Why do these two have tension right now? There is nothing in the book canon that suggests that these two are together, but like they kiss in an elevator. No, not in an elevator. They kiss in the movie. There's so much tension between them in the movie that you're kind of like, they are dating, because she gets kind of like radicalized and joins the movement. Right? And she's like, killing kids is actually wrong. Yeah. And he kind of gets reinvigorated because of the movement, right? Like he's like, okay, I'm going to stop being depressed. We've got to overthrow the government. So I guess that kind of like their character arcs them because they're both kind of like reinvigorated by this cause that brings them together. It's just really funny to me that the actors just playing them as dating make it so that everyone ships them together. You also get a lot of Katniss and Joanna because people want a lesbian ship or like at least a sapphic ship. And I'm there. I love that. Joanna is a character, as I said before, I do not believe is canonically gay. I don't think anyone's canonically gay in the Hunger Games, which is like kind of a waste. That would be my quarter quell. I'd be like, for the 75th annual Hunger Games, it's all gay Hunger Games. And actually, in many ways, this is equality because doesn't it feel good to see yourself represented on screen? But people wanted a ship that was queer. So there you go. You also get a lot of Katniss is asexual / Katniss is not with anyone. This kind of idea, this is kind of a resistance, which we'll get into a bit later, of like Hunger Games versus Twilight, where there's people who kind of rejected this notion of Team Gale versus Team Peeta and being like, it's not about Team Gale or Team Peeta. I'm Team Katniss, how about? And like, they are right, but they were saying it with a real aggression. They're like being like, and if you think otherwise, like, okay, misogynist. I'm like, yeah, okay. Fan fiction wise, I really want to talk about the so the Hunger Games, we get basically a lot of fan fiction about the characters, but we also get a lot of fan fiction that's like an AU. So it's like Harry Potter, but they're going to the Hunger Games, you know? It's Twilight, but they're fighting in the Hunger Games. It's Marvel, but they're fighting in the Hunger Games. And we get my favorite twist on this, which is pregnant in the Hunger Games, where you're in the Hunger Games and you're pregnant. Because there's this whole thing where like Katniss is pregnant, but not actually pregnant in Catching Fire, because Peeta, in an attempt to get Katniss to not be in the arena, is like, it'd be okay, like me and Katniss got married and it would be fine, you know, to go back into the arena. We totally get it if it wasn't for the baby. Oh my God. That movie is so, actually, I'm going to watch that movie tonight. I want to watch that. I'm going to watch it. God, it's good. But you get pregnant in the Hunger Games, where it's like, you know how there's like My Mom Sold Me to One Direction? The Hunger Games version of My Mom Sold Me to One Direction is pregnant in the Hunger Games, where you're pregnant with someone's baby in the Hunger Games. And when I was watching the new season of Squid Game, and they literally have pregnant in the Hunger Games in Squid Game, they have a character who's pregnant in Squid Game, I screamed. I was so excited. I was so excited to see it because it's such classic fan fiction where it's like a hat on a hat. It's like a trauma on a trauma. It's like enough to just be like in the death games. You also have to be with child. One of my favorite parts of the fandom is the Peeta and Katniss ship name. Obviously, people ship Katniss and Gale, and Katniss and Peeta. Those were like the main ships of the Hunger Games. And what is Peeta's last name? Malark. Okay, I got it. The ship name for Katniss and Peeta is Everlark because it's Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Malark, so it's Everlark. And it's because if you put Peeta and Katniss together, you get penis with 2 E's. And why we should have just had their ship name be penis with 2 E's. That's funny. Another aspect of the fandom I want to talk about is the 74th Career Squad. So this is about the first Hunger Games book, the 74th annual Hunger Games, which is the first one that Katniss and Peeta are in. They have a career squad, which they always have in all the games, which is basically the tributes from earlier districts who are richer have the option, I believe, they're trained. It's said in the movies, but I don't believe it's said in the books, that the careers go to a special academy and train and then volunteer when they turn like 18 to do the game. So they actively want to do the games, and they're really scary because first of all, they want to do the games, which is terrifying, and they train in like actual combat. They're strong, they know how to survive, whereas a lot of the kids from the poorer districts don't have those skills because they're like trying to survive. The only reason Katniss has her bow and arrow stuff is because she was doing that to survive, where it's like a lot of the kids are like, well, I don't know how to like throw knives because I'm busy working at the post office, you know, for my parents. But in the first Hunger Games movie, the careers are hot, so there was a lot of thirsting over the 74th Career Squad. So in the 74th Career Squad, we have Marvel. I love these names so much. Marvel is played by Jack Quaid. He dies in such an iconic way where he gets like an arrow through the stomach and drops down on his knees, and it's like... We have Glimmer, played by Levin Rambling. Kato, who is played by Alexander Ludwig. What happened to when I was making this, I was like, what happened to Alexander Ludwig? He was like in everything. Magic Mike, Hunger Games. What is Alexander Ludwig up to these days? I feel like whenever I ask like this, it's always the most horrific answer. Like somebody's like, he did a hate crime. This is like when I said that I was talking to somebody randomly and I was like, oh my God, I love Nikki Blonsky. And then they were like, she actively did a hate crime. And I was like, what? Well, I don't love her then. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. And we finally have Clove, who is from District 2. She's played by Isabella Furam. She plays the orphan from the movie Orphan, and she throws knives. And I have never been one for like knife to throat. Like, I don't think that like he's trying to kill me, but it's sexy. That's not like a trope I enjoy. But when I was 13, I was like, I love her. And like as a friend, like I just want to be her. No other reason. Like I was like, I had a crush on her for sure. If we are going to talk about the Hunger Games fandom, we have to talk about Buttercup. Buttercup is Prim, Katniss's sister's cat. And Buttercup honestly actually gets kind of, for a cat, gets a real journey where Katniss hates Buttercup and then Katniss loves Buttercup and they learn to love each other because of the traumas of war and rebellion. Okay? But people were pissed because Buttercup is an orange tabby. A mangy orange tabby. And in the first movie, Buttercup is black and white. And everyone in the fandom was like, that's not Buttercup. I don't know who this cat is. I don't know who the hell but it's not Buttercup. And they bullied production into changing the cat for the next movie. That's all I want to say. That's how much continuity mattered. Wild. I also want to talk about, with the Hunger Games fandom, specifically online, this kind of like comparison specifically to Twilight, which I talked a little bit about in the like rejection of being Team Gale, Team Peeta, and being Team Katniss. But you also get this a lot in memes that compare Katniss and Bella. There was this real kind of like, tell me you hate women without telling me you hate women, but like with a feminist lens going on online of being like, Bella, because she's a woman who's in a romance, sucks and is stupid and doesn't do anything. But Katniss, who's forced to be the leader of a rebellion, is awesome. I have to just like actually read these to you. I'll put them on the screen, obviously, but like, so remove the love triangle from the Hunger Games. And the Hunger Games is about a televised fight to the death. Remove the love triangle from Twilight, and Twilight is just about a girl who moves to a town where it rains a lot. Owned. Katniss versus Bella. This also meme format is triggering for me to see. This is what memes used to be. Let's get started. Big caps. I don't know what that's in reference to. One survived 2 Hunger Games. Oh wait, okay, so it's a list. So it survived 2 Hunger Games versus survives teenage heartbreak. And what I love about this is it kind of insinuates that Katniss chose to be in the arena. Like, I'm sure Katniss would love nothing more than to just be in a teenage love triangle. But unfortunately, her fascist government has forced her to fight to the death twice. She doesn't do it because she wants to. She does it because she has to. It's not like Bella and Katniss were both given equal options to choose to be in the Hunger Games, and Bella chose not to, and Katniss chose to. Like, Katniss was forced to. And I do agree that Katniss is a much more fleshed out, interesting character. She's this reluctant face of a rebellion, but so many of these arguments hinge upon this idea that Katniss being forced to fight to the death is a virtue. So Bella whines, Katniss wins. And by the way, Katniss wins by murdering kids. Reluctant. She doesn't want to murder kids, but she has to murder kids. The boy who lived, the girl on fire, the girl who did nothing. Get her. Of course, Bella. I love how this meme looks. It's stupid. Hermione will fight against Voldemort until the end. Katniss will bring down the Capitol. Bella will just sit here and wait for my boyfriend, his family, and the dogs to solve all of the problems I've created in the first place. Which is also not fair. I'd rather be in the arena than be Bella Swan. I don't think that's true. I think if you gave Katniss the option of being a teenager in Forks, Washington, or having to go to the arena deathmatch that she was forced to do, I honestly think that she would choose to go to Forks. Modern literary heroines, brave, intelligent, selfless. So Tris Pryor is selfless and brave. She's divergent. Hermione is intelligent and brave. Daenerys is intelligent and selfless. And Katniss is all three. And Bella Swan is outside. That's so funny. It's so rude. I just had to include those because I feel like you need to be able to see the kind of Bella versus Katniss, which is not a fair fight at all. You can't just be like, Sherlock Holmes solves way more murders than Mr. Darcy does in Pride and Prejudice. And it's like, yeah, well, he's not solving murders in Pride and Prejudice. Like, Bella is not given the option to overthrow her fascist government because she's not in Panem, which is good. Like, we should want all teen girls to live in a world where their biggest problems are the boys or girls or people that they want to date. That is much better than being forced under a fascist regime to die. Also, like, Bella was almost murdered all the time in those movies. And I agree that there is a thing of like, Bella as a character has absolutely no survival instinct. She thinks he's a vampire, follows him into the woods, could have gotten killed. And she does not save herself. Like, I will give you that. But it's also just like, we should want Katniss to just be in a love triangle. She should just be a normal teenage girl. Now let's talk about the lore. There are some elements that the Hunger Games fandom specifically, at least when I was in it as a teenager, really latched onto. First, we have Haymitch's Games, which we now get a full book about in Sunrise on the Reaping, which is so funny because when I was on Hunger Games Tumblr, so many people were like, I want a book that's all about Haymitch's Game. And it's like, girl, just wait a decade. Just wait a decade. Hold on. If you told teenage me that we would be getting a Haymitch's Games book, I would have never even had a suicidal thought as a teenager because I'd be holding on. So I wish I knew. But basically, we know that Haymitch's Games was the quarter quell, the 50th annual Hunger Games, and there were twice as many tributes that year. So there were 2 boys and 2 girls. Again, nobody who's non-binary can be reaped in the Hunger Games, so it's actually kind of a hack. If I was in Panem, I'd be like, I absolutely am non-binary. You cannot reap me. So it's 2 boys, 2 girls from every district. They fight to the death in the Hunger Games, and we know that Haymitch wins by he throws his axe and it bounces off of the force field and kills his opponent. And because this embarrasses the Capitol kills everyone he loves. Cute. So another part of the lore I want to talk about is Gale. This is a huge spoiler, but we just simply have to talk about it because it's such a big part of the lore. So just skip to the theory section if you don't want spoilers. Gale killing Prim. Now, this is kind of a real dark night of the soul for Katniss because if you recall, the only reason Katniss volunteered for the games is to protect her sister. Like, her big want, the big reason she does basically everything she does in these games is not even out of self-preservation so much as it is protecting her family and knowing that she is the breadwinner of the family. Katniss's father died when she was quite young. He died in a coal mining accident. My eye is twitching. And basically Katniss's, I'm just gonna keep talking while I do this to kind of just treat my eye. Katniss's mother functionally kind of had a mental breakdown and couldn't provide for them. So that's why Katniss started hunting and all these things to provide for her sister and her mother. So she volunteers for the games because Prim is reaped. So she does that to protect Prim. She tries to make it back so that she can protect and see Prim again. She keeps up the facade with Peeta in Catching Fire in order to protect Prim. Again, when she's in the arena, she wants to get back and see Prim. They have a part of the arena in Catching Fire because there's a bunch of different kind of like little zones with different booby traps and torture kind of things. Like there's like a tsunami or there's blood rain in different parts of the arena. And one of them is jabberjays, which are a hybrid animal made by the Capitol. Mockingjays are birds that can mock sounds really easily. So that's where Katniss is like, I can usually actually whistle a lot better than that. And I'm disappointed in myself. Okay, that was good. That's like a Mockingjays call. They use it in like the first arena when Katniss is in the 74th Annual Hunger Games to send a message between her and Rue of being like, when I'm done, I'll whistle that, and then the Mockingjays will repeat it to each other, and then they'll start singing it, and then you'll know that I'm okay. They're good at like carrying a tune. And Jabberjays are hybrids where they are like parrots and they can parrot back information. So they're basically used as spying devices by the Capitol on rebels, right? Because they can just go listen and then repeat full conversations. They have them in the arena and they just are repeating basically Prim being like, Katniss, help me, help me, help me. And that tortures Katniss, obviously, because it's like her younger sister seemingly being tortured by these, that's the sound of it from these Jabberjays. So when Prim dies in Mockingjay, that's like not good. I don't need to tell you that, but that's like a real moment of like all of this, the original reason to do all of this is for naught, because the whole reason of this whole idea of the rebellion is like create a better version of the world for Prim. We need to protect Prim, so Prim dies. Prim is a nurse. She's like a battlefield nurse during the rebellion, and she dies because there is a bomb explosion and the nurses run in to treat the people after the bomb explodes. And then a second explosion goes off and kills her. We later find out that my neighbor's coming inside, and I don't want them to hear me just kind of like talking about the Hunger Games lore. Like, I don't think anybody in this building knows that I don't have a real job. I'm just like, oh, I work in social media. I work in social media for a company. I don't just talk about the Hunger Games to a camera for 4 hours, and that's my job. Okay, we find out that Gale is working with BT, and they've created a bomb that feeds off of human compassion, where the bomb goes off, and then people rush in to help, and then a second bomb goes off. And this airstrike that killed Prim was ordered by President Coin, who is the president of District 3, where the rebellion is taking place. No, District 13, sorry. I have a really big issue with numbers, like speaking numbers. I speak them very, very incorrectly, and I don't know why. So Coin did this so that it would look like they bombed, that the Capitol was bombing civilians. Honestly, pretty naive from my perspective, because it's like, we've seen now that nobody cares about civilians being bombed, like, which is like actually kind of horrific. And we're kind of like living in a dystopian world where like people are being like, civilians and innocents are being bombed, and everyone's like, I don't care. But this was basically a political move, and Katniss' sister was killed in a political move to turn the last Capitol sympathizers against the Capitol for killing civilians. But Katniss really blames Gale for inventing the bomb that kills Prim. And what's crazy about this is, obviously this was research that I did for this video. Like, I was like, I knew from reading the books and from being online in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, that Gale killed Prim, and that it was Gale who killed Prim basically in an airstrike. But I didn't know that he didn't, like, in my brain, I'm like, Gale ordered the attack. Like, the way that this has been funneled online is like, Gale ordered the attack. He knew what they were going to be used for. It's his fault, when in actuality, he's like, I didn't know that that's what they were going to be used for. But this is the final nail in the coffin, and Gale is basically Team Gale in the trenches. This is the Hunger Games version of when Jacob imprints on Bella's infant daughter, where you're like, I have to jump ship from this ship. I can't be on the ship of Team Jacob after he imprinted upon a child, so I gotta get out of here. And the same thing with Gale. You're like, I can't be on the ship of Team Gale when he invented military technology that murdered Katniss's child sister. I just think that's interesting, because like, I really, really was like, Gale killed Prim. It was his fault, 100%. Maybe I have some information wrong. Maybe there is some kind of like illusion that he was lying, that he was like, oh yeah, I didn't know what they were going to be used for. But I feel like the vibe when I was reading the passages again, it's like he was like, oh, I didn't know that that's what that was for. Another part of the lore that we had talked about before is that the victors are prostituted. This is confirmed by Finnick when Finnick is shooting his propaganda little reel for YouTube Shorts, where he talks about how he won the games when he was 14, and then when he was 16, because he was like an attractive young man, he was prostituted out by the Capitol, basically as like an escort, but also as a sex worker, but non-consensually, and his family and his loved ones were threatened if he didn't do it, and it was seen as this kind of like high level of like this high status symbol for people in the Capitol to have like slept with or gone on a date with a victor. And this is so dark. This is, I wanted to include this because I think it's such a good example of how like good Suzanne Collins really did. Like, she did a lot of good with this series, I think, in actually introducing some really tough to swallow realities of this world, and that it's not just like this evil government is creating the Hunger Games for no reason. It feels like a thing that could very much happen because of this rebellion and like this fascist regime. Like, it seems like it could totally happen. And I would buy that people in a very rich part of the world would solicit services from from people who are famous to them, you know, and not really seeing them as people. They don't see poor people as people. And again, I said before, it's like this really amazing kind of look at how you can succeed within this broken system, but even success within the broken system is not success. The games don't just end when you leave the arena. The games have just begun, so to speak. And it's just so dark. Like, this is a book for kids, and I just think that these books are really well done. Like, that's a really interesting thing to think about in that world. Suzanne Collins has also confirmed, I believe, in an interview, this is from the Hunger Games wiki, so take it up with the Hunger Games wiki if it's incorrect. So Finnick has been confirmed in the canon as somebody who was forced into prostitution. Cashmere and Gloss, who are also victors, who are careers from like the earlier arena. I believe that they're District 1 winners. Victors is what they're called. Were also forced into prostitution. And Finnick said that he had there's other like context of this, that he was like, I don't have any need for like money. Like, I've got enough money. I traded in secrets. So he got secrets from people in the Capitol. Finnick is a great character. I really do like that character a lot. I think that it's such a great subversion of this idea of Katniss immediately. And she's just like me, because she sees somebody, makes a snap judgment, and is like, oh, I've got this person all figured out just based on a vibe. And then in actuality, he's much deeper, much more complicated than that. Oh, and the final part of the lore I want to talk about is the Avoxes. The Avoxes you see a bit in the movies, but really they're a lot more focused on in the books. They are servants in the Capitol who were basically people who tried to rebel, even small acts of rebellion, right? So it's like, it's not just like planning an organized rebellion. It could be like stopping the peacekeepers, which are the cops in this universe, from like beating your mother. You basically get captured and have your tongue cut out so you can't speak, and forced to be a servant in the Capitol. And there are a lot of like kind of like random pieces of lore and theories about being like, how did these people become Avoxes? Like, what did they do? Again, really good imagery. This idea of being like people who can only watch. They cannot speak anymore. Words are powerful. Okay. Now, you might have skipped forward because you didn't want to be spoiled. There will be a bit, I'll let you know if there's any more spoilers in this that are like huge. The biggest one was the one I talked about in the last section with regards to Gale and Prim. These are theories. So I went on the Hunger Games Reddit and read through some of the most popular fan theories that are wild and insane, but maybe they have some validity behind it, because this fandom, it's kind of like the Taylor Swift Easter eggification of all media, where now everything kind of references itself. Fans are now taught to basically do the closest reading possible to try and pick up any kind of like connections or what they could mean. And you see a lot of that in the Hunger Games fandom, especially because now we're getting like prequels, which have characters from the original trilogy, and they're all connected. And you get little sprinkles of people's stories when they're in the arena, like in Catching Fire, when Haymitch is introducing all of the other victors that are going back into the arena, he'll be like, this person won their games by doing X, Y, and Z. So you get a little pitch for them, but you don't get to see the full story. So people kind of create theories about those things as well. Because the books are told from Katniss's point of view. They're all the books are told from different people's POV. Sunrise on the Reaping is Haymitch's point of view. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is young fascist baby girl hot boy Princess Snow. Yeah, President Snow's point of view, but before he was president. And then all of the Hunger Games trilogy, the original trilogy, are from Katniss's point of view, which is great because that means like you're not getting all the information, you know, like if it is told from the third person, you can get a lot more like omnipotent information that the main character might not know, but we're getting information through Katniss's point of view. And she's genuinely not that interested in people. You can even see that in the way that like Haymitch's book is written, where Haymitch as a character seems to be just a lot more interested and and connected in society than Katniss is. So when Haymitch is talking about people, he'll be like, this is my best friend, Burdock. His parents are this person and this person. There's these jobs. And his little brother is this person. You get like a full rundown of this person's family and life and community. And Katniss does not give a she gets base level information that she just needs to survive, and then it's like, okay. So that means that, especially in the original trilogy, there's a lot of gaps that get to be filled with theories, which I think is really interesting. So the first theory is that Prim is Peeta's dad's daughter, Mr. Millark's daughter. This seems to just come from, okay, so we don't see Katniss's dad in the series because he died before the Hunger Games starts. He died in a coal mining accident. And when Katniss and Peeta have to go to the Capitol, Mr. Millark is like, don't worry, I'm gonna take care of Prim. And I guess that to people suggests that if a man is to take care of a child, a woman child, he must be related to her. And that's a fact we all know for sure. If a man is being kind to a 12-year-old girl, it's because she's actually his child. This is related also to Cinna, who is Katniss's stylist. He's very nice to her and like a very grounding presence to her in the Capitol, because so many people in the Capitol are so kind of silly and over the top and so removed from what's happening in the districts and how bad the government is, but Cinna's very plugged into that. And Cinna's really, really nice to Katniss and a father figure in many ways. So people are like, Cinna must be Katniss's dad. But also like, and not to be like a men's rights activist, but men can be nice to young women in a way that is not sexual and is not familial. Crazy, I know. So I'm rating this as not true. I know that a lot of these obviously aren't gonna be true, but I don't even find this compelling. Then we have the Katniss and Peeta's parents almost got married story. There's some wild Tumblr posts that are actually pretty compelling, even though I don't think this is true. This is very much kind of giving Gossip Girl to me, where Serena and Dan are dating and then their parents start dating, and I can't think of anything that would make me less want to date somebody than them basically almost becoming my step sibling. Like, what am I in ABC's The Fosters? Like, no, me possibly dating my step sibling does nothing for me. And if anything, it makes me want to do it less. But the idea is that through kind of like information that we get, Katniss's mother was the daughter of merchants, and Peeta's father is the son of merchants, and Peeta is a bit better off than, say, Katniss, because in terms of like the economical structure of District 12, merchants are obviously better off than just people who have to go into the coal mines, right? And Katniss lives in the Seam, which is like the heavily impoverished neighborhood in District 12. So Katniss's mother and Peeta's father are from the same class. And if we know one thing, you can only date within your own class system. We know this to be true. It's not allowed. It's actually not allowed for you to date outside. So like, and if you guys didn't know that, you should probably write that down. No, I'm kidding, obviously. But basically this idea of they were in some ways like in love, but then Katniss's mother chose to be with sexy coal miner, working class boy Burdock, which is what Katniss's dad's name is. That was rogue lore dropped in the new Haymitch book. And what's wild about that to me is where I live in Toronto, there is a brewery called Burdock Brewery. And now I'm like, okay, so Katniss's dad, this is my conspiracy theory. Katniss's dad did not die. He found a time machine and came back to 2020, around then, Toronto, and started a brewery. So like, let's look into that, right? But basically, the Katniss and Peeta's parents almost got married is this kind of weird, I think, fanficky thing that people like in fandoms, of this idea of like, I think maybe it's similar to like the Everything Everywhere All at Once thing of like, we'll find each other in every lifetime, and our parents are somehow us, of being like, their parents couldn't be together, but they were in love, and because their kids are extensions of them being in love is more romantic. It's confusing to me. I could be swayed, but I am not compelled by this theory at all. Then we have feminism causes the Hunger Games. This is kind of like a reactionary take that came out of the feminism angle, I think, of the Hunger Games. Maybe I'm like a misandrist and like a radical feminist, because I don't think the Hunger Games are like that feminist. The Hunger Games are like, women are people and women can shoot with bow and arrows and do rebellion. Like, and I think that's a great book to read if you're a child. Maybe I am the way I am because I read the book as a child. But like, is it super feminist to be like, women can shoot bow and arrow? I don't know. It's not like bringing in radical schools of thought. It's not like Katniss's Polly, which, Suzanne, you can have that idea for free. Make third book Katniss's Polly. No Hunger Games involved at all. No, rewrite all the original trilogy series by Katniss's Polly. Think about it. But the idea is basically that in our modern world, feminism went too far, destroyed the economy. Yeah, and then basically caused a reactionary pushback, which caused the Hunger Games. I'm obsessed with this. I'm obsessed. Sometimes misogynists let you know who they are from the start, and you can't begrudge them for that. At least you're being true to your heart. The next theory I want to talk about is the 1984 theory. This is basically coming from, and this is used in a lot of other YA dystopian novels. This comes from George Orwell's 1984. I might say 1989, the Taylor Swift album, but I don't mean to. It's, again, I have my life is a battle with numbers. It's just me battling against number. It's a fight to the death, and I'm losing. I'm losing hard. But basically, in 1984, again, this is kind of a dystopian world in which the government has mass control, and they control the news and basically have like a news organization that is all-knowing and is full of just like intelligence. This is an oversimplification, but then like basically has their own perspectives on what's going on. But in 1984, the idea is that this dystopia is happening in America, and no, not in America. I think it's in England, actually. I have read this book. I just found it boring. I believe it's actually in the UK. London. Yes. Okay. It's this idea that like where this is all happening is basically sequestered from the rest of society, and the rest of the world is like, okay, like it's normal. So this idea that Panem is America, which has fallen into this like fascist regime and is cut off from information from the rest of the world. But like, I'm here chilling in Canada being like, what is going on down there? I find this very compelling. I think also it's just been used in dystopian fiction a lot. And it's very interesting. It's also, I think, very chilling because a lot of dystopian to me kind of communicates this idea of it's happening in the future. Like it can't happen now when we can obviously very much see that it is and can happen now. So this idea of all of this happening and reading this book and being like, yeah, that's pretty up and like it could happen, but it's like not happening now. It's going to happen in the future. There will be signs it's going to happen and we can stop before then. But then having those characters kind of exit that world and then be like, it's simply 2021. Like it's happening in our world. I think that's very chilling. I like that idea. Okay, here's a theory that I've got fucking questions about. I gotta actually figure out exactly who Maud Ivory is specifically. Okay, I've got the information. Bear with me. So for you to understand what this theory is, I need to explain to you who Maud Ivory is. So in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, we are introduced to the Covey. The Covey are kind of a group of traveling musicians and their cousins. Let's actually see what the Hunger Games wiki specifically says they are. A nomadic people in Panem known for their musical talent and performances. Because they were nomadic, but the districts became a thing, and you're not like really moving between districts. They were rounded up after the Dark Days, which are before the Hunger Games become a thing. But when they were transitioning from the Dark Days, which were probably like, okay, into the Hunger Games kind of timeline, the Covey were basically rounded up and genocided. Like, say what you will about Susan Collins, she's not afraid to put some of the darkest shit in her children's novel because these people were nomadic and were not, I don't know, also fascism, you just kind of like kill people, right? But there were a few surviving members of the Covey who grew up and lived basically on the outskirts of District 12. They sang in the Hob, which is kind of like the bar that the peacekeepers go to and the people in town go to. They're basically musical, nomadic family. They're all like cousins. And I don't know if that means like actual cousins or like cousins in like a community sense. Okay, so in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the first prequel, which is about President Snow, he is basically mentoring Lucy Gray Baird, played by my girl Rachel Zegler, who is a girl who's a member of the Covey, who's one of their basically matriarchs, even though she's like 16, 17, as she goes into the arena. And when she survives, afterwards, we're kind of introduced to the Covey, which are all of her friends and family. Whatever. One of her cousins is named Maud Ivory, a member of the Covey. We don't know specifically what happened in between the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and the original Hunger Games trilogy in terms of what happens to the Covey, but all we know is that the Covey do not exist, as far as we can tell, in the original Hunger Games series. However, a lot of the Covey's songs, like The Hanging Tree and things like that, survive and make it to Katniss's family because she learns them from her father, who sang them and who had a great voice. So there is a theory out there that I could be swayed. I like this one, that Katniss is in some way related to the Covey. I'm not a big fan, we'll get more into that later, of this idea that like is really pushed in like the new Star Wars trilogy, of this idea that a rebel and a chosen one has to in some way be kind of like an illegitimate child or related to somebody who's really has a lot of political influence. I like the idea that the Mockingjay, rebellious figure, that somebody who can make great change is just a nobody who's normal. But I do like this kind of like lore of what's going on in District 12. Another thing that is of note that we learn about Maud Ivory in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is that Maud Ivory can remember songs after hearing them just one time, which is also a trait that is attributed to Katniss in the original Hunger Games trilogy. That's like when she's singing The Hanging Tree, she's like, oh, I can just like remember songs really easily. Further conspiracy theory, they're all descendants of me because I can also remember a song after hearing it one time. I'm not musical at all, but I can remember a song after hearing it just one time. So maybe I'm a member of the Covey. This is my explanation of a generally understandable theory that Maud Ivory, who was a member of the Covey, who's one of Lucy Gray Baird's, the main character in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, cousins, who's a bit younger than Lucy, is Katniss Everdeen's grandmother. The timeline and ages add up that she could have given birth to Burdock, Katniss's father, and also they're all musical, and it's fun! Live a little. But the theory that I really want to talk about is I went to a specific thread on the Hunger Games wiki that was like, what kind of wild Hunger Games theory do you believe? And one of the top comments was, I love the theory that Suzanne Collins is a time-traveling Maud Ivory, basically has come to either the past, I guess we're the past, so come to the past to kind of warn us about what's happened. And I was like, okay, well, let's read more about this. And then I Googled it and could not find one reference to it. It's like I imagined it. And I was in the Reddit trying to figure out Suzanne, in quotations, Suzanne Collins, I'm traveling Maud Ivory, nothing. Gone with the Wind. Okay, next theory, that the capital is either in Salt Lake City or Denver. This is a tenuous discussion on the Hunger Games Reddit of the location, the modern day location of the capital. Where is it? Because we know that Panem is a kind of dystopian, futuristic America, and they describe it a little bit, and people are like, some people are really like, it is absolutely in Salt Lake City, and some people are like, it's absolutely in Denver. I just want to read these to you. The capital in the Hunger Games is Denver. It makes sense if you pay attention, because Denver is a city with a lot of unnatural activity around, very eerie feelings all around. The Denver International Airport has the most biggest airport in all America. Why, you ask? Because it's the Illuminati headquarters. Notice the 4 creepy murals and the giant horse nicknamed Bulcifer. May I remind you, Kurt Cobain had a blue Mustang that has red inside of it like the Colorado flag. Movies contain facts hidden inside. You have to be more aware of that. And thank you for keeping me in check. And the Skynet base in the Terminator movies is located in the Cheyenne Mountains, Colorado Springs. And Colorado Springs is just 1 hour and 8 minutes away from Denver. So that's not much of a distance. The Hunger Games is predictive programming. They want the whole United States to be divided into sections with a mega city in all of them, like in Judge Dredd. I'm obsessed with that. This is another post. I would like to remind everyone that the capital is not and cannot be located near present-day Denver. Why? Denver is a plains city that has mountains in the distance to the west and plains to the east. Sincerely, a Denver resident. First-person POV, this is a primary source. A better candidate, and the one selected by Hunger Games Wiki as the most probable, also supported by the map from the Catching Fire movie, is the land around Salt Lake City, Utah. Also, the new movie is amazing. So this is the map in Catching Fire. I have absolutely nothing about Denver. I've never ever been there. I've never been to Colorado. I've never been to Utah. Heard great things. People who live there love it. So if y'all are from there, hey, congratulations. If you look at this map, does this look like Salt Lake City to you? Let me know in the comments. Because to me, it looks like a lot of space. This is a picture of Capitol in Catching Fire, I guess, when they're coming in, probably. And there's mountains. So do with that what you will. This is a picture I want of modern day. Is Denver, I want to say. I forget. This video has gone to the fucking dogs. Denver doesn't make sense because in the first book, when Katniss and Peeta are taking the train to the capital, they pass through the Rocky Mountains to get there. Denver is the last major city before you hit the mountains. A better theory is that the capital is in Salt Lake City because it is past the Rocky Mountains and surrounded by other mountains as well. It is also very well known that there is an extensive tunnel system below SLC, Salt Lake City, that was built in part by funding from the Mormon community there. So just people really, really are sounding off in the Hunger Games Reddit about whether or not the capital is located in Denver or Salt Lake City. Just based on the quality of the arguments, I want to believe Salt Lake City. There's a lot of mountain talk. That makes sense to me. Although I do love the rogue Illuminati drop. Now we're going to talk about the theory that Foxface killed herself. This is a spoiler for book 1. I just think it's compelling. Also, I figure if you kind of know like that Katniss obviously wins the Hunger Games because there's a bunch of books. So you're like, well, she's not going to die in the Hunger Games. Foxface is a girl in the first Hunger Games that Katniss does, the 74th annual Hunger Games. And Katniss sees her while they're in like the training period, absolutely slaying it on this little matching game. So you know how they have those games where it's like you're trying to like match 2 cards that are the same? They have that, but for plants. And it's basically being like, match which plants are edible, what are their medicinal qualities, all of these different things, what are poisonous. And she sees Foxface absolutely killing it on this. She's Beth in the Queen's Gambit playing chess on the ceiling. She's just going and then in the arena, she's not killing anyone, but if somebody dies, she like runs in and steals like their food or whatever after they've already died. She's just trying to out-survive everyone, not kill everyone, but out-survive them. Then Katniss finds Foxface dead, looking very much emaciated and very, very hungry. And she has eaten berries, and she has eaten nightshade, which is a poisonous berry. So because we see Foxface do so well on the matching game, there is basically a theory that Foxface took the berries as suicide because she was so hungry and she was dying. I believe this. I actually don't even really feel like this is a theory, but people don't believe it because she was so hungry. They're just like, she was desperate, she ate it, which is possible. But I feel like if you think about it from a perspective of a writer, like if I was writing this book, why would I include the fact that she was so good at knowing what plants are? It's to kind of allude to the fact that she knew that these berries would kill her, but she was so hungry that she just chose to kill herself. I think this is fantastic symbolically. I don't think that it's not good. I'm not like pro Hunger Games killing kids, but I think that this is really interesting because it's so dark. Again, Suzanne Collins loves to be so fucking dark, but also it's this idea of like, it's very hard to win in this system without getting blood on your hands. You know, Foxface tried to do it without killing anyone. And there are victors we learn later, like Annie Cresta from District 4, who won her games because they just filled the fucking arena with water and she could outswim everyone while everyone else drowned. Generally speaking, it's like an interesting kind of like idea to put forth of being like, this is of somebody who tried to win the Hunger Games without killing people, and you can't get out of this system without getting blood on your hands, so to speak. Next, rigged reapings. So as I said before, 2 tributes from each district are selected. Basically, as we see in the movies, it's like a raffle. Your name is written on a slip and they pick it out of the bowl and they read it. But we do know from the book that there have been several instances where the reapings have been rigged. We know that Lucy Gray's reaping was rigged. The mayor's daughter made the mayor pick her name, which is so fucked up because the mayor's daughter was dating Lucy Gray's ex, which feels like a crazy, that feels crazy. But don't worry, Lucy Gray got her back because Lucy Gray can sing to snakes and control snakes. Oh, I didn't mention that Lucy Gray can sing to snakes and control snakes. She can charm snakes with her voice. I didn't mention that Lucy Gray Baird can sing and charm snakes with her voice. Well, she made a snake attack the mayor's daughter. She put a snake in the back of her dress because she can charm snakes with her voice, by the way. So we know that Lucy Gray's reaping was rigged. We also know that Ampert, who is Beatty's son, Beatty is a former victor. Ampert is reaped in a rigged sense because Beatty came up with a plan to sabotage the Capitol's communication systems. So as punishment for doing that and getting caught, Beatty's son was reaped. So that's 2 instances. And we also know in the same book that Haymitch protects his girlfriend from peacekeepers due to an altercation. And because of this like moment of rebellion, of resistance against the peacekeepers, he is reaped for that. So we know canonically of at least 3 different reapings that have been rigged. We also have Katniss saying at some point in the original trilogy that so many victors' children have been reaped for like entertainment value that it's statistically not like they were probably rigged because it's like statistically like crazy that would happen as much as it has. So that's part of the theory that a lot of the Hunger Games reapings are rigged. I believe this to a certain extent, whether it's on a small level, just like the mayor being corrupt and doing it. I believe that the government is corrupt, especially in this child death fascist government. Like, yeah. And I also believe that we've seen more than once, like the Capitol punishing people, using the Hunger Games to punish people. So it would make sense to do that. There does seem to be a kind of a belief that all of the reapings are rigged, which I don't believe. I think the effectiveness, if I was President Snow, really hot baby girl dictator, you can fix me. I think that what is so effective about the Hunger Games is that it's random, that nobody can escape it. So it's like, yes, sometimes it can be used as a punishment tool, but also you could do absolutely nothing wrong, but you should still be afraid of the government. And you should be doing this. You're paying for the sins of other people. So I don't think that they're all rigged. There also is a persistent theory that Prim's reaping at the beginning was rigged, whether it be to punish Haymitch, because Haymitch was friends with Katniss and Prim's dad, Burdock, just to be like, ha ha ha, punishing you. Or to punish Katniss for hunting because Katniss hunted, which was illegal, but to feed her family. Or this was rigged by Plutarch, the head game maker, because he knew that Katniss somehow would be the Mockingjay, would be a symbol of rebellion, and he knew that Katniss would volunteer for her younger sister, so he set it all up. I think that this is fucking bullshit. And I think that the beauty of the story is that people can come from random circumstances. So I think the Plutarch one is not true. I think that the beauty of it is that people can come from random circumstances, rise above, and become these visions of rebellion. I also feel like the head game maker was the guy with the fucking crazy beard in the first book. So it's not him. I don't think it's that. It could be to punish Haymitch, but I think to a greater extent, like, why would you not just like then reap Katniss? Like, I don't buy that. I also just think like it's more, nobody knew that Katniss was hunting, so that doesn't make any sense to me either. And again, it's just like, it could be anyone. Anyone could be reaped. I think that that's why it's so scary. There's like, we like to, I think, put rules on things to be like, if I act good, like all the reapings are rigged. So as long as you act appropriately, you won't be reaped. When it's like, no, like the government is corrupt. Like these are fully unjust and undeserved. And even if you were a member of rebellion, like that still doesn't justify this. But I think that sometimes in our brains, we like to create these things of like these logic to these inherently illogic, horrible situations. So I don't believe that all the reapings are rigged. The final theory, there's 2 theories, but they both involve my girl, Lucy Gray Baird. So the first one is just kind of Lucy Gray survived at the end of her book, is related to Katniss, or is President Coin. So at the end of her book, Lucy Gray, who's like based on a poem of a girl who disappeared into snow. Oh, she's walking with President Snow. He's like young, he's not a president yet. And she realizes that he's like really messed up and that he did something bad that I don't want to allude to exactly because I think it's a really great reveal at the end of that book. But he did something bad that kind of reveals that he is not a good person, that he wants to succeed within this corrupt society, and he eventually does become the president, right? So they're walking after just like being out by the woods, by the lake, and then she's like, she realizes, and she's just like Jim looking into the camera on The Office, like, and then she disappears. Like, not like out of thin air, but she's like, just go and go get that stuff real quick. Go get the stuff real quick. And then when he's going to like get stuff, she disappears. So there are a couple theories about this because again, the book is told from President Snow's point of view, but he's like 16. He's not president yet, but it's told from Snow's point of view that he did kill her and cannot deal with the reality of that. So he has her disappear, right? Like it's a kind of like a mental break, or he's an unreliable narrator, that kind of thing. There also could just be that she disappeared and survived, which is a part of this theory. There's another theory that Lucy Gray killed Snow, which I don't think is real because it's his perspective. So if it was told from her perspective, then I could believe it. But like if he died, then his perspective wouldn't continue because he'd be dead. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think that's true. Out of all of these, I mean, I think the point is that it's up for debate. It's vague, so it's what you believe. I want to believe that she survived because I do really like the character, and I think already, obviously, it's like big death games, whatever. It's so depressing to think of just people in a relationship, like the man in a relationship killing a woman. Brave take on my point. I'm so brave, guys. I'm so brave for saying that, even though that is obviously not more depressing than the Hunger Games. But I just like don't really like that's so depressing. So I choose to believe the theory that she survived and she just kind of like lived in the woods doing her own thing. I don't think Lucy Gray is related to Katniss. I don't think the timeline really adds up. Lucy Gray, I think, would be in her 40s, and obviously she could have, you can have a baby in your 40s. I just feel like in a dystopian universe where there's like really no modern medicine, it would be less likely. And I also think if Katniss's grandmother was a former victor of the Hunger Games, she would know. They would tell her. So I don't buy that. I also hate the theory that Katniss is Lucy Gray and Snow's granddaughter. Again, this is very much the Star Wars trilogy, the new trilogy, the sequels. We don't have time to unpack my beef with J.J. Abrams. Like, we don't. But all you need to know is J.J. Abrams, for the Star Wars sequels, the first movie he directed, it's basically A New Hope all over again, the first Star Wars movie. But it's like this rebellious leader who's going to bring forth the fall of this dictatorship, is just like she's just literally like a random, like, not even a smuggler, but she's like a scavenger. And you're like, okay, this is compelling. I love this narrative that anybody could be a Jedi, that anybody could be the person that brings forth the fall of a government. It can come from anywhere. You don't have to be important. Second movie, written by Rian Johnson from Knives Out. He basically implies in this that there are random kids who are just basically like poor kids who have the Force and are Jedis, obsessed with this idea. It's not this like royal family thing that you can have, that there are just random poor people, that anybody could be a Jedi. It's not that like everybody could be a Jedi, but there are kids with Jedi proclivities just like living in poverty. It could be anyone. J.J. King Abrams comes back for the third and final movie and goes, no, never mind. That it's only nepotism. Jedi is nepotism. You can only inherit it, and there's no illegitimate kids of Jedis. So it's not anywhere else. It's only the people we know about. And by the way, spoiler alert for the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, Rey is not a random scavenger. She's actually Emperor Palpatine's granddaughter. Not only does that make her and Kylo Ren cousins, and then they kiss, whatever, but it also undoes this. They really put this new Star Wars trilogy to be like, this is woke Star Wars. This is not your father's Star Wars, which of course made all of the old Star Wars fans absolutely dox any person of color who deigned to be in this movie. How dare they be in my Star Wars? My Star Wars is white. But also they're like, girl, this Star Wars is empowering because it's a girl. The girl is actually secretly in proximity to great wealth and power. She doesn't know it yet, but she is a Nepo baby. I hate it. J.J. Abrams, you better fucking count your days. This is why I don't like Gracie Abrams. And it's not her fault, but my hate for J.J. Abrams is so great that it's been put on to Gracie Abrams. And girl, you don't deserve that. I'm so sorry. But I fucking beef with him. It's not enough. It's not enough to ruin the Star Trek movies and make absolute ass fucking Star Trek movies for just decimate this the series. You have to also decimate Star Wars? Pick a struggle. Pick a struggle. I can't. Anyways, this relates to the Hunger Games because of this theory that Katniss is Lucy Gray and Snow's granddaughter. I do not like when we take stories where the overarching moral and lesson is that power and ability to do the right thing and inspire people to make change can come from anyone in anywhere. You can be an absolute nobody. You can be a random girl whose father died in a coal mining accident, living in the seam in the poorest part of the poorest district, and rise up through a system to dismantle it and become this figure of rebellion. I love that. Why do we take that and then go, actually though, it's a family drama? Fuck that. I hate that. There's also a theory that President Coin, who is the president of District 13, secret district, it's a whole thing, who becomes part of one of the leaders of the rebellion, is Lucy Gray because Lucy Gray disappeared. So it could be. So Snow and Lucy Gray are around the same age. And we know that in the Hunger Games trilogy, Snow is in his 80s, I believe. And President Coin is described as middle age. So that doesn't really make any sense. And when I was reading more about this, there's people commenting being like, well, there's like plastic surgery in the capital in the Hunger Games. So you can look like anything. And I'm like, yeah, but she's living in basically an underground fucking bunker where she's living in a bunker. Like, I don't think she's getting plastic surgery. So I don't believe that. Okay, that's the theory section. We're coming to the end, guys. Now we're going to talk about the soundtrack, because the soundtracks for these series are insane. They just got like basically, again, from the beginning, like just great musicians that teens like to make good songs. So for the Hunger Games, the first soundtrack, they had, the one that I remember, although they had a lot of great songs, is Safe and Sound by Taylor Swift and the Civil Wars. It's this kind of folk, very like kind of eerie sounding song. I want to see if there's any other songs of note on the original Hunger Games. Okay, we have a song from Arcade Fire, Kid Cudi, Maroon 5. Oh, Eyes Open is also Taylor Swift. So she did another song. Keep your eyes open. And then for Catching Fire, this song, I had this on vinyl as a child, which is so crazy. But the Catching Fire soundtrack is so good. It starts, I believe the lead single is Atlas by Coldplay, but we also get Elastic Heart, which is Sia, The Weeknd, and Diplo, which just did numbers on the charts. We also have Who We Are by Imagine Dragons. And the one that I want to talk about specifically, although they also have a song by Patti Smith, the one that I want to talk about specifically, not this absolute ripper of a Patti Smith song on the Catching Fire soundtrack, which I'm obsessed with, is Lorde covers Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Great. This did so well. And the director of the Hunger Games liked it so much that they decided to have her curate the soundtrack for Mockingjay Part 1. Mockingjay Part 2 doesn't really get a soundtrack in the same way that they did for the other three Hunger Games movies. It's just instrumentals. So all of the kind of budget and whatever went into Mockingjay Part 1 soundtrack. So Lorde curates it. First, we have to talk about, obviously, the fact that The Hanging Tree is on this. When you look at the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 soundtrack, the most listened to song by far is The Hanging Tree, which is sung by Jennifer Lawrence. But we also have a song that's by Pusha T, Q-Tip, Haim, Stromae, and Lorde. Wild. We have a song with Charlie XCX. We have a song with Ariana Grande. We have a song with Tinashe. There's just some good shit on this. And there's a lot of Lorde songs. We have a Kanye West rework. No, nobody can keep Lorde away from Kanye West. Nobody can keep that girl away. We also have the Ladder song, which is another Lorde song. But the one I want to talk about is Yellow Flicker Beat, which is the second most listened to song on this album. This song rips. This song is so fucking good. I can't have you listen to all of it because I'll fully get demonetized. But I just needed to talk about Yellow Flicker Beat. And the last soundtrack that we have to talk about is the soundtrack for The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which I love. I love in music because they get Rachel Zegler to play Lucy Gray Baird, and she has obviously an amazing voice. And Lucy Gray sings a bunch of these folk songs, which are a big part of the narrative. So they have these songs that are written by like folk artists or whatever that are written for the movie that they have her sing, which is so great. Like my Spotify rap did have Nothing You Can Take From Me Boot Stompin' edition. It's just a great song. So they have so many great songs on the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes soundtrack. They have Rachel Zegler singing The Hanging Tree. Ziegler, I know your name is Ziegler, girl. Rachel Ziegler singing The Hanging Tree, Nothing You Can Take From Me, The Ballad of Lucy Gray Baird. They also just have other kind of like folk singers write kind of songs that are in the vibe of the Hunger Games. And they also have the lead single, Can't Catch Me Now, written by Olivia Rodrigo. Anyways, I just love how full circle it is that now Olivia Rodrigo is doing the kind of main song on the new Hunger Games soundtrack. I can't wait to see what they do for the new Hunger Games movie, The Sunrise on the Reaping, because they always just do such great and actually interesting for the soundtracks that I think actively appeals to their teen audience. Like when I was watching the Hunger Games movies as a teenager, I was invested in the soundtracks in a way that like I usually am not. So love that. Now let's talk about the tie-in products. So there was lots of promotional tie-in products for the Hunger Games movies, and there's a couple of new ones that I want to talk about as well. But we need to talk about them because what's so great about the tie-ins is you understand it from the perspective of like, it's a huge blockbuster teen movie. You obviously want to make tie-in products to just like make the most money that you can. But from another perspective, like it is about child death games. Like what if Squid Game came out with like nail polishes? That would be weird. So the first tie-in product I want to talk about is the Capital makeup line. It's the CoverGirl Capital collection. So everyone in the Capital wears makeup. The problem is that nobody in the districts wears makeup because they're living in abject poverty. Like you don't have time to do like a highlighter when you're hunting for your family because they need to survive. Like maybe they could do a little bit of like a smoky eye for the coal mines or whatever. So really, if you're going to do a makeup tie-in, you have to do the Capital. And that does kind of make sense from an aesthetic point of view because the Capital is the place with these really, really beautiful, really cool makeup choices. Like the makeup team on these movies did an amazing job. Like they really did affect me. I can think of so many now. And I can't think of a lot of other kind of media that I can think of the makeup looks. And I can think of them immediately if I have to, other than like Euphoria, I guess. So like they really did make some very, very distinct makeup choices. But the reason they're wearing that makeup is because of like wealth inequality and like they have so much and they look so stupid and crazy because everybody else in their country is starving to death. Unfortunately, we have to look at these. Okay. So yeah, we have this kind of like this little like silver moment. Looks like somebody dressed kind of like a peacekeeper, which is so funny. It's like you can still look beautiful, even if you're kind of like a police soldier meant to oppress the people. First of all, women can do that. Girl power is allowing your tools to oppress your people to also be women in a full face of makeup. And this kind of fish one, these makeup looks look really, really cool. Like I think that they're really, really interesting and creative. It's just that they unfortunately represent the oppression of people. Like it is just hard to like make a tie-in product for the Hunger Games that isn't like a toy bow and arrow that makes any sense. We also have the China Glaze nail polish tie-in. These are the colors, and they're called, again, colors from the Capital because nobody has time to paint their nails in the districts because their best friend is getting whipped at the whipping pole at 2 p.m. for stealing a loaf of bread. So we have hook and line. I'm assuming that's maybe a reference to like District 4. Fast track, is that a train one? The only track I can think of is the train they take to the Capital. Foie gras, famous like fancy foods, maybe when they're eating fancy food in the Capital. Dress me up, maybe they're getting dressed up to do promotion for their child death games. Stone cold, I guess it's like a stone. Maybe there's like a stone, I guess like mining, maybe? Yeah, because then there's smoke and ashes, which is also like District 12 is like the mining district. Agro, which could be agriculture. Mahogany magic, of course, because of Elizabeth Banks' iconic line read when I believe it's Katniss slams a knife into a table and she goes, "That is mahogany." So I like that. Harvest Moon, Neil Young, coming for Neil Young's neck. Riveting, because I guess the girl on fire. Lux and Lush and Electrify. These just kind of seem, this is, I feel like, a little bit less offensive because even though it is colors from the Capital, it's like, maybe because there's less of like a visual ref, like they're not like, it's not called like Ruse Blood. Like it's not like, it feels less like do your makeup like you're in the Capital, i.e. do your makeup like you're a part of the ruling oppressive class, and more just like, do you like the Hunger Games? Buy this nail polish. I don't know. It feels less weird. And then we have the Hanging Tree song, which I had mentioned a bit before. It's sung by Jennifer Lawrence as a part of kind of like Katniss's propaganda film. It was on the Mockingjay Part 1 soundtrack. It did incredibly well. And the thing I want to talk about is, I don't know if you would know this if you weren't like there, but like they would play the remix of this at parties. And it's a song about two people meeting at the Hanging Tree where they kill people, presumably for being dissenters. And it's a song that's kind of passed through the oral tradition of folk music by a people who have been functionally murdered for falling out of line with, you know, the norm of what this oppressive society is. And they play the fucking remix. Everybody's at the club like, are you coming to the tree where the man called out, he said he murdered 3. Everyone's grinding, popping ass to the hanging tree. Sorry, I kicked the camera, but I can't. But you had to be there. Like, they have the hanging tree remix radio cut. Everyone's like, oh shit, yeah. And then we have to talk about my actual favorite, the Subway sandwich Hunger Games tie-in.
Get to Subway for your chance to win thousands of prizes like a trip to the Hollywood premiere of The Hunger Games Catching Fire. Find codes on collectible cups to play and see The Hunger Games Catching Fire in theaters November 22nd. Subway, where victors eat.
I found this Subway ad from watching a video, which I will link below, by Sarah Z, and it's called The Rise and Fall of Teen Dystopias. And she's talking all about teen dystopia and about the Hunger Games and all this stuff, but she put this in and I was like, I have to talk. I have not stopped thinking about the Hunger Games Subway commercial. They also had this poster that says Subway, where victors eat. Basically, this is just promo. It's a tie-in for the Catching Fire movie, and it's a spicy sandwich, which really does feel like in universe, like Subway has a tie-in with the Hunger Games, the child death, not the movie, the child death games in Panem. And they're like, get the commemorative 75th annual Hunger Games sriracha chicken sub. Which kid will not be murdered? This year, find out at the Hunger Games. Subway, eat fresh. I get it in a sense. Yeah, so the two sandwiches are steak jalapeno melt and chicken jalapeno melt. They also had that sriracha sandwich. They're called fiery footlongs. It's so tone deaf, which is so funny. Yeah, sriracha chicken melt, new sriracha steak melt, buffalo chicken, turkey jalapeno melt. Great. Where victors eat is simply everything to me. By the way, to be a victor, you have to slay your opponents, which are children, in a game which you are forced to be in by the oppressive regime of your government. I can't even fathom every thought I have about these Subway commercials, but they're everything to me. They are so tone deaf, they make no sense. I guess it's because bread is a real theme in the Hunger Games, and also Subway is like a cheap enough meal that teens can buy it before seeing the Hunger Games. The spicy sandwich, like I get that. Katniss is the girl on fire, get your spicy sriracha sandwich, but it really does read like Subway is a company in Panem for the Hunger Games and is doing like scan codes so that you can be on there and win a prize of being there the first night that the Hunger Games, the 75th annual Hunger Games starts. Scan prizes and you'll get a date with Finnick Odair because he feels he has to be escorted out and prostituted out or his loved ones will be murdered by President Snow. Subway, where victors eat. Oh, I'm obsessed with it. I actually am obsessed with it. And you would think that this is just something that is emblematic of the early 2010s, but no. There is a Hunger Games Shein collab that has just come out this year. Hunger Games, get ready to rebel against ordinary and embrace extraordinary, which is, I would say, what Katniss did. She didn't rebel against anything specifically, but she was rebelling against ordinary and embracing extraordinary in many ways, just because her sister was almost killed, and then was killed. The style games have begun, embody the iconic looks that define the world of the Hunger Games. And also, nobody has worn a single t-shirt in the Hunger Games, so that's not really what this is. So I just wanted to talk about that. I think about that all the time. Okay, and finally, I just want to talk about the prequels. I've obviously talked about them in depth. I just think it's such an interesting kind of thing that has happened since, like, in the kind of Hunger Games resurgence. So the novel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, came out in 2020. The movie came out in 2023, and the other prequel, which is Haymitch's games, Sunrise on the Reaping, came out in 2025 recently, and they've already announced the movie. What I love about these is I think it really is cool that Suzanne Collins is functionally doing fan service and reviving her most popular series. Like, she didn't do anything. Like, she did stuff, but she didn't like write Hunger Games books from the publication of Mockingjay until 2020, which is wild. And it's so cool because, like, it is fan service and it is bringing back the most popular series, and it's fan service in the sense that, like, it's about characters that we already know and we're getting their origin stories, which is kind of like often what fans do. Harry Potter fans have been like on their hands and knees begging J.K. Rowling to do a Marauders series or a Marauders book series, a TV show, whatever, for years, and she refuses because she's got a brain worm. she's got an RFK brainworm, and that's melted her brain. And I guess she's too busy terrorizing transgender teenagers on Twitter to do anything constructive for society. So it is interesting that like Suzanne Collins is really like feeding the fans. People have been begging for a Haymitch origin storybook forever, and she gave it to people. People were interested in how Snow became who he was, and she gave it to people while still building out this incredibly complex and interesting world and introducing new characters. And the books themselves, people do enjoy, and they do hit. Like, I really enjoyed it. And I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes last year or 2 years ago when I had a really bad flu, and it was so just like nostalgic. And The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie is fucking great. It's a really good movie. Like, it's long, but it is really good. And they keep with the movie as well. Like, not only are the books and the movies building upon this like lore and this world and building this world. They're building this world and its lore. The visual identity is so crazy. Like, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie looks so good. I love the costuming choices. I love like the set design choices and how like the Capitol looks at this different time and how you can see that those things have grown into different things. It's crazy to me that she's done something that people really wanted her to do, and it turned out really well. I also then want to just talk about the casting for Sunrise on the Reaping, the Haymitch. It's wild. Like, the cast is great. I honestly wonder, I was telling somebody about this earlier today, like, I wonder if this movie, the Sunrise on the Reaping movie, they'll keep doing more Hunger Games books because there's obviously an appetite for it. But like, I wonder if this movie will be the peak of how the movies are. I can't say in quality or whatever, but in terms of like budget and cast, because the casting is so ridiculous. Like, I wonder if it's at the perfect part where it's like, it's so popular, there's a lot of money, and people who are good actors want to be in it. It's wild to me. So they have President Snow is Rafe Fiennes, who I love because I'm a Conclave bitch. My favorite movie is Conclave. We have Jesse Plemons playing a young Plutarch Havensby, which is wild. That is such a good casting choice. Jesse Plemons looks so much like a young Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's such a good casting choice. We have Joseph Zada playing Haymitch Abernathy. He's basically an unknown, like, compared to other people, which I also think is great. Like, there's nothing that's more annoying than having only famous people. Like, Hollywood simply knows 5 actors. They have Ben Wang playing Wyatt Kalla, who's another tribute in the games. This actor, he just was in the Karate Kid reboot, and he's like a great actor. Like, I feel like it's time we have a new action hero, and I think that this is a great casting choice. We have Maya Hawke as Wyrus. Wyrus and BT are from the same district, and they are tributes in the 75th annual Hunger Games, like in the Quarter Quell. Maya Hawke looks so much like the actress who plays Wyrus. Who's the actress that plays Wyrus? Amanda Plummer. They look so much alike. It is such a good casting. Whitney Peak as Lenore Dove Baird. I am so happy Whitney Peak was cast in this. Whitney Peak is in the Gossip Girl reboot. She is genuinely an amazing actor, and the Gossip Girl reboot, like, obviously didn't give her like the break that I think she deserves. So I'm so excited when this movie comes out. It's about to be Whitney Peak's year because she is such a fantastic actor and she's beautiful. I'm so happy that she's in this. We have Lily Taylor as Mags Flanagan. Mags was one of the other tributes who was like a victor who was then a tribute again in the Quarter Quell, and that's just tragic. And then we have Kelvin Harrison Jr. as BT. I guess he's from Elvis. But people were really happy about this, feeling like, okay, this is like the vibe of BT. So they've really been killing it with the casting, and okay. My neighbor's in the front yard just kind of staring at me through the window, doing YouTube. Great! So, anyways, that's all I really have to say about the Hunger Games. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And what's your favorite Hunger Game? Give me a rogue Hunger Games theory in the comments. I'll think of one right now, because Rafe Fiennes is President Snow. President Snow is actually the Pope and time traveled to not now, because the Pope is from now. The Pope, you get it. Okay, bye.